Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fired Up, the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass Education series on glass art. We have a really fascinating program for you today and quite a bit to cover, so I'd really like to get right to it. I'm going to have Howard Cohen put some information in the chat about our organization because we do have some really interesting things coming up. So please do check that link in the chat room for more information. Today's program is called Never Half Empty, Glass in the Czech Lands. And with the help of several panelists, we will be covering the history of Czech glass through the generations. I'd like to introduce Doug and Katya Heller of Heller Gallery in New York, and I'm really grateful to have their help in moderating the panel today. They have over 80 years experience combined in the world of glass art with extensive knowledge in the area that we are covering today. Doug organized the Prague Glass Prize, the first major exhibition of Czech studio glass produced after the Velvet Revolution in the Czech Republic. And Katya was born and raised in Czechoslovakia, starting her career as an interpreter and entering the field of the glass arts via work for Dale Chihuly in 1990. And she brings an extensive amount of knowledge about the arts in her homeland. As we continue with the program, if you have questions for the panelists, please put them in the chat room. We'll be getting to a few of them during the program itself, and then we'll be saving the rest until the end of the program. So now, without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Doug and Katya Heller. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Dimitra, and thank you all for being here today. You know, it's often said that the arts are a mirror that reflects society. But the arts can also be a forge upon which society can be shaped. Few examples better illustrate this than the relationship the Czech lands have had with the fine arts and the applied arts. The region's support of art and craft has flourished under very different governance systems, mostly by design, but sometimes by societal factors, leading to unexpected and fortuitous results. Today's panel will reveal the practical approaches that have underpinned the role of the Czech educational system in creating a world-class community of artists and craftspeople working with glass. Our prestigious panelists include Charlotte Kotik, writer, lecturer, and former curator and chair of the Department of Contemporary Art at the Brooklyn Museum. Charlotte's family has been involved in the Czech arts and politics for generations, and that's given her real-life insights as well as an academic perspective. Our next panelist is sculptor and painter Ivana Sramkova, who has exhibited and taught workshops internationally. Also participating is artist educator Klara Horackova, assistant director of the glass program at the Academy of Art, Architecture and Design, also known as UMPROM in Prague. Finally, we are very pleased to welcome the renowned hot glass sculptor Martin Yanetsky, who just before the pandemic managed to build Prague's only hot glass studio. Congratulations on that achievement, Martin. All of our panelists are extremely busy people, so we are very, very grateful for their participation today. The presentation will briefly trace the sweep of glass history in the Czech lands with a special focus on the development of studio glass in the 20th century through to today. The panel will explain how the glass arts received official support and encouragement as the government of the first Czechoslovak Republic, 1918 to 1938, sought to establish a national Czech identity, and how and why the artists, designers, and architects working with glass flourished and embodied a silent resistance during the generally repressive communist years from 1948 until the Velvet Revolution in 1989. Panelists will discuss the current state of glass education with a focus on the four-year programs at the Specialized School of Applied Arts for Glassmaking and the six-year University Fine Art and Design programs at UMPROM. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator, who many of you already know, gallery director, chair of the Board of Urban Glass, and my boss, Katya Heller.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Doug, for such an illustrious introduction. Anyway, I'm so pleased to be here, and I am going to start by just saying two things. One is we are going to talk a little bit about history, so we have some images that accompany this, but we are going to continue the conversation as we show the images. And if we if you have questions about them, just put them in the chat, or, I don't know what the protocol is, Howard, for that, but I think putting the questions in the chat is probably the best idea, right? And not all the images are going to be images of glass, so bear with us. So I'm going to start by asking Charlotte Kotik, whom Doug just introduced, and who again was is the curator emerita of contemporary art at the Brooklyn Museum, Brooklyn Art Museum, and she also is an art historian and a historian, and she is I'm gonna ask her, Charlotte, would you please set the stage a little bit from the historical perspective of how and why arts and decorative arts and architecture were used in the Czech Republic to help establish a national identity. Yeah, let's start there.
So thank you very much, and I really hope that I will not disappoint too much, because obviously glass is not necessarily what I know in such detail as everybody on this panel, because I see the people who are really very well sort of understand what's going on, but I will do my best. And what I sort of know from the history and growing up in Czechoslovakia and sort of learning about decorative arts and applied arts, because it was part of sort of family lore and production, as well as theoretically worked on. So after 1918, after the breakup of the Austria-Hungary, which obviously encompassed the Czech lands, with what parts of becoming then later Czechoslovakia, everything had to change, and things had to change also in the educational system. And educational system was very, very important for creating the sort of new national identity. And that new national identity was sort of thought about, Czechoslovakia at that time was, and overall, doesn't have the natural resources some other countries might have had. So what was it really? So it was this accumulation of the historical knowledge, but also sort of education, the belief that culturally the Czech lands can really give to the world a lot, as well as becoming recognized by the world around. So a lot of thought was brought to changing the education and creating the much more open educational system than the Austro-Hungarian system, which was sort of based on professor is a god and we don't discuss things with them. That's what they say. It's really what needs to be followed up. But so the new educational system was much more based on the individual creativity, and with that went also sort of creation of the vocational school, because not every extremely gifted person is necessarily interested in repeating the dates and sort of knowledge of Greek or Latin, but creating some beautiful object or something which is like material culture, which then affects the whole society. And so the vocational schools were really created with that vision to give the space and the freedom to those who have the special abilities in certain media and could create something which then enriched the sort of whole society. And
Charlotte, I'm going to just interrupt you for 1 second. I'm just going to say we're showing here the map of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which included the what would eventually become Czechoslovakia. And if you can see it's the red and blue area in the north west, and then the brown area, which was Slovakia. And then as Charlotte is speaking about the education system, we're going to move to an image of work by Jan Cortera, a Czech architect, one of the first teachers at the school where Klara is teaching today, and where Ivana, one of our other panelists, has graduated from. He taught architecture there, and we're showing, sorry, you can go ahead. We're going to show the difference between, or the difference and similarity between his design for glass and his architectural design.
And that was something which was also really, it sort of started before the First World War, 1914, but was carried on and really explored even more after 1918 in that new sort of vision of how different media could be integrated, and that the division between the architecture, glass, design, and even textiles was not necessarily that strong, that we need to sort of create something which responds to modernism and brings it moves it into category something which is accessible to general public. And I think that vision of general public to really have access to a good design was also one of the reasons why the glass or ceramics and textiles were supported by this new educational system, but also that, of course, was supported by the government, because you have to have government funds to be able to build the new educational parameters.
And so we're gonna, one interesting thing that I believe, and I would love Klara, if Martin and Ivana just to chime in for 1 second. Is it true that we have graduates of each of the three main glass specialized school? Klara, you graduated from Kamenetsky Shenov, is that right?
Yeah,
Klara?
that's true. Kamenetsky Shenov, yes.
Kamenetsky Shenov. And Martina, you from Nový Bor?
Yeah, I've graduated from secondary glass school in Nový Bor.
And Ivana, you from Železný Brod?
Yes, that's my school.
Yeah, this is the school. And so we're showing here the image of the building of the school in Železný Brod, the first school that was actually established as the Czech-speaking school after the establishment of the First Republic. And Charlotte, can you maybe, so you were talking about that, right? How the First Republic felt that one of the things was that the idea of creating everyday objects that were accessible but well designed was an important component.
That was it was really kind of democratization of the art object, or democratization of the general culture, the material culture, because, in a small nation, you really could, a small nation without the major natural resources. And so you really have to create a niche, and that niche was that culture could enrich the life and could also become economically viable product which could be marketed in the world. And I think that world really recognized much of that ability of the small nation to create something culturally very important, and it was being recognized all over the world at that time. So, unfortunately, the Second World War interrupted greatly all the development. But that's
we're going to illustrate that here with this piece, or this set, which is the tea set by Ladislav Sutnar, in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art. But I also had here these images just for a moment to show you. So amongst the three people that founded this school, who were the founders of this school and who were called from the university program in Prague to do this, were architect Alois Metelák, whose glass design from 1936 for this 38 rather, Pokal vase you see here. And then also by him is this memorial to Jan Amos Komenský, a Czech educator and thought leader of the Renaissance, of the Protestant movement. And in Litomyšl, where Metelák first taught, and these two examples are by one of the other founders, Janecky, who designed this vase in 1936, and also this set designed in the same year, a chess set in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or an example of which is in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art today. Anyway, so I'm going to go back to the Sutnar, and so maybe let's move from what happens after, so after the First Republic is established, an identity of a new nation is built. And then we come to the war years. And that's the one interesting and important note here. And this is why we have this map here, is that the Czech lands became the protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. But a lot of the glass industry was focused in the border regions between the Czech lands and Germany, which was called Sudetenland. And Sudetenland was actually where most of the places that we were just talking about, Nový Bor and Kamenický Šenov, ended up being. Haida is Nový Bor right here on the German side. The only one of these places that remained in the protectorate was Železný Brod, actually, you see right here, very near the border, but on the Czech side. So Charlotte, can you just maybe tell us a little bit about what happens? So the war finishes in 1945, and in 1948, the communists come to power, and life and the system drastically changes. So can we maybe talk a little bit about what happened then, and how glass became kind of one of the materials that was given great prominence during those early years?
Yeah, the glass was like the glass production and the beautiful glass, the special really way of designing glass and producing glass and using it not only for utilitarian objects, but also for fine arts, was really very established in a way. But with the changes of the aesthetics and the coming of or establishing the social realism mainly after 1950s, any kind of design or production which harked to abstract art was seen as subversive and really basically suppressed. The censorship in art visual arts was as strong as censorship in literature and other cultural disciplines. But in some way, the decorative arts were slightly exempt because they were things. Is there a question right now, or?
No, I don't think so. I think we were just hearing somebody speaking who didn't mute themselves. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the design for decorative arts was sort of more free, and you could get away with, applying certain modifications and certain motifs in the decorative arts, which you really could not do in fine arts like painting or sculpture. So, and the glass was something which was seen as also economically viable for export, and was sort of given little more freedom in proposing the projects. And there was in the exhibition, the Brussels exhibition in 1958, there was a big vitrage, which was all glass, big piece, which was kind of architectural, connecting architecture, but it was a glass design. Unfortunately, we don't see the colors. And this one particular piece could sort of illustrate very well what was happening in the overall sort of cultural situation of the country. The design of individual elements within this piece, within this large sort of freestanding vitrage, was obviously very abstract. It was kind of transferred from the paintings. And but because it was produced in sort of more manufacturing setting and was not seen as a free sort of art expression, it was accepted by censors at the time, who had to okay everything that it could exist. It was produced, but then it was finally seen as a whole. It was deemed subversive, and it was said that maybe we should not send it to the exhibition in Brussels because it would promote the abstraction, which is in direct opposite to the official ideology of art of the time. So, but then—
Charlotte, can I just interrupt? This is, we should just say that the author of this is Czech artist Jan Kotik, right?
Jan Kotik, yeah. The author is Jan Kotik, who designed it with sort of an official permission, and it was even asked by those who organized the whole presentation of the Czechoslovakia in Brussels at the time. However,
and we should admit that he's by marriage, he was a relation of yours, right, Charlotte?
I know, and I didn't want to bring it up too much
That's
because
okay.
I really want to talk about the piece, because the piece sort of exemplifies everything what was happening to the artist at the time. So, but he was also, he produced a lot of other really very beautiful, important art, glass objects. But this was sort of seen as this architect, and it was very large, obviously. You can see it's floor to ceiling. So when it was completed, it was seen as maybe it shouldn't go because it would show the abstraction could exist in Czechoslovakia in 1957 and 58 when it was designed, which was deemed inappropriate. However, because already funds were used for it, and also because it was seen not as a piece of art, it was seen as material culture, therefore not as potentially dangerous as something which a painting or sculpture could cause. So it was decided that it has to be installed in the pavilion in Brussels, in the Czech pavilion, which was very highly regarded at the time, that it must be put somehow sort of aside. So, and I think that we can see the tables in the background, so it was somewhere close to the restaurant, you know. So then it was allowed to go with that it's really not fine arts. And that there was this division. You could really do things, you could do certain motifs, and certain ideas could be used in art, which was not seen as fine art, but it was seen as a decorative art. And a lot of artists were able to sort of survive because, you know, if you were not members of the union of the artists, you didn't have access to any exhibition, you didn't have access to materials, you didn't have access to studios. So if you were able to produce on the site the book design or glass design or ceramics or textiles, you were able basically to survive economically. If you did not have abilities to do something which could have been seen as a decorative arts or applied arts or material culture, you were really in trouble. So this piece itself was to return to Czechoslovakia. It did return, actually, was taught at the Museum of Decorative Arts for some time, and then in 1960 went to an exhibition in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and in Argentina. In Argentina. And on the way to Argentina, it got broken in the cases, and the glass, which was the shards of glass, because it was all very colorful, which we don't see here. So the shards of glass are now used in the public school in Argentina, in the chapel, as a stained glass windows. So that's sort of a very interesting story of a piece of glass as it traveled in the world and has sort of illustrated the ideological extremes of different places in the world in certain times. So
thank you so much for that, and thank you for the story. That's a really fascinating story, and I apologize that we don't have a better image of this piece. We have requested that, and I'll try to find it, but not too many pieces, not too many images obviously exist. So we're going to just go through a little bit more of that period, and we will move on to Ivana Sramkova. What we are showing here is the work of Stanislav Lebenski and Yaroslava Brichtova. This is an early 1964 winged head, which actually was one of the first pieces exhibited by the Lebenskis in the United States in 1964, before Montreal, before any of the Corning exhibitions. This was at the Museum of Decorative Arts in New York in an exhibition of Czech and Italian glass in 1964. This is the blue concretion, also by the Lebenskis. Following the exhibition that Charlotte was talking about in Argentina, Czech glass artists also participated in the 8th Sao Paulo Biennale in Brazil. This is a piece of the Lebenskis from there. This is a piece, chandelier installation by René Robíček, another Czech artist. The Lebenskis work on the surface of the radio transmitter Yeshtet, one of a really important architectural building or architectural piece and a building. This is the Lebenski's work for Osaka, another expo in 1970, and for the Corning lobby. This brings us kind of to the 70s. This is a really interesting, also a Lebenski installation that was in the East German, that was in the Czech Cultural Center in East Berlin, a piece called Germination, which sort of survived just by sheer perseverance of the people that were ordered to demolish it when the government closed this in the sort of chaos of the in the late 80s. And this is the piece as it was salvaged from there. Some more Lebenski work. The work of Václav Ziegler, another Czech artist and important teacher who established the program in Bratislava that was analogous to the program in Prague, perhaps not as well known, but certainly as, you know, important and well respected. Another piece by him, piece by František Wiesner, and then a number of works by students of Stanislav Lebenski that we have here, but I'm gonna maybe just skip this. I'm gonna see if I can do this really quickly. Ivan Mareš, Marian Karel, Vladimíra Klompar, Bohumil Eliáš, and I am losing this name, but this is Aleš Vašíček, Vlastimil Beránek, Dana Zámečníková, who was not a Lebenski student, we should say, and Jan Ambruš. And here we are at Ivana's work. And we asked Ivana to speak here a little bit because Ivana is the person who graduated not only from a specialized school, but also attended the program at the School of Applied Arts, Architecture and Design, as it is called today, but was then called the Academy of Applied Arts. And she was in the last complete class of Stanislav Lebenski. So Ivano, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to be in those programs? And then also
hello. So
go ahead.
Fine. So I must apologize my English because during COVID I have no opportunity to speak, so I will try. As Charlotte told us,
your English is better than most people's Czech here on this Zoom,
okay,
so
thank you. Okay, I would like to say that as Charlotte told that the professor wasn't God, so for us Lebenski was God. We love him, yeah.
Oh, good.
And these 6 years we spent with him, it was fabulous. And he has, I think, very good program for students that we start, when we came to his studio, we start from really beginning, like drawing still lifes, schools, and then half figure. And so it takes like 3 years, and the next 3 years we painted also figure like standing or sitting nude and so on. So we got like a general education in art. We were very skilled in drawing and painting, and I think it was like a good beginning for some artwork. With glass, we worked like 2 times a year, every end of semester, and also it was the first classes. The first year, it was like a design, like jugs, bowls, dishes, glasses, and then the tasks were more and more difficult, and in the end we make our own studio work, and that we graduated. So, and Lebenski was
Ivana, can I just ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So in your class, how many people had never experienced work with glass before they got to the university in your Lebenski class?
And
how many
I know only,
class?
I can say only Anička Matoušková, the daughter of Vladimír Kopecký. I think she was from gymnasium.
Okay.
And the other, I think, and and the other they were from or the high school with the glass specialty or the art high schools, I think.
Okay, and how many people were in that class? How many people were in your class?
In my class, I think we were 2 in the Lebenski studio. We were like a in the whole my class was like I don't know 30 people, but 2 in glass, 2 in fashion, 2 in ceramic. So I think we were 2, and
So it was
together
you and Anička Matošková?
No, she was younger, but I think one Bulgarian, I forget the name because I don't know. He wasn't so much.
There were 2 people, right?
Yeah. But I was with one Bulgarian boy. I forget the name.
It's
It doesn't
okay.
matter. So together we were like, I don't know, 15, this 6 degrees we were together. So I can see, I can watch the other, what they are doing. So it was like a 15 people, we were in the studio. We are mostly living there, you know, whole day. And,
So I'm just going to underscore what Ivana just said. I don't know if everybody caught this. She said 12 to 15 people. That represented the entire 6 years, the 6 grades. That represented the entire population of student population of the program for 6 years was 12 to 15 people, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
We went there every morning from 8 till 12. We have like a studio work. We were in atelier drawing, painting, you know, and so I have it written here.
So Ivana, tell me.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Just tell me this piece that we're showing, Honza and I, right? What year? Do you remember what year this is from? Like how long after you graduated from school did you make this piece? Next year,
when I was pregnant with my son.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I want to say that drawing and painting was taught from the very beginning until students reached a high level of proficiency, particularly in the study of proportions and an understanding of shapes and relationships in nature, but built a sense of form, size, and composition in every student, something I think all Lebenski students have in common. But this wasn't the manual of how to make an artist, only how to educate a capable designer. This I wanted to say.
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna emphasize what I'm saying here is that, you know, Lebenski and what the students and what Ivana is saying is that the students were not given a manual on how to become an artist. They were just taught classes that would make them capable designers, right? Because Ivana.
Because there is no manual how to educate artists.
Exactly.
So you asked me also about my experience from my teaching in the summer schools over the world. And my experience is that usually I have very short time, especially for casting. So I am missing this possibility to speak more about or to make some more drawings and more discussions about. But for somebody, even this very short touch with the glass or with this technology could be also very important and could change his life or his work. You helped me to translate this sentence about the bumblebee. I will read it. Yes.
Yes, sure.
They say that given its weight compared to the size of its wings, a bumblebee should not be able to fly, but it does. So it might be a similar case as to educate artists or became to be artists. So you never know.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna ask you one more time to talk a little bit about. So do you think that a longer time, if you as a teacher had a longer time to work with a student, do you think that that would change the nature of education? Would that make it better? Is that
I think
system?
that if you are a longer time with a professor and other students, so you are speaking, you are watching what they are doing, you know, you are trying to find what you like, what's your interest. So it's, I think for me, it was important. I grew up during these 6 years, you know. If I don't have this education, probably maybe I do something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's definitely better, I think. It's definitely better, yes.
So we should quickly say that I was showing here this work of Ivana's kind of chronologically, mostly her cast glass works, but here there's a couple of examples of pieces that she did with blown glass vessels and blown into molds, right, Ivana?
Yes, yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
and then this, and then other design work. And then her other work in mixed media.
I would like to say that some of my schoolmates also, and me also, that we have like a larger how say it, space setup. We use more techniques, or we do a lot of paintings, and I work with bronze and concrete, and yeah, that we are not only working with glass.
Right. So well, like we showed earlier, the work of some of the people that were influential in founding the school in Železný Brod. What Ivana is obviously saying here is that, you know, that extended to everybody who went through this program. These people came out capable of working with any medium, hopefully. And that Ivana does in fact work in other media, which we showed in the mixed media pieces like the birds, but also, for example, in this work for architecture on a bridge designed by Czech architect Sramkova. These are sculptures, the trees, the bird, and at the end, which you may not be able to see depending on where we are placed, there's a buffalo back there.
Mm-hmm.
And hold on, I'm trying to forward this. There it is. Anyway, so that's that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Katya, for helping.
Yeah, and please stay on though, because if there are questions, we will go to that next. And we will ask, maybe we'll ask Martin next, since we have the images right here. Martina, you were an example of somebody who went through the secondary school, specialized secondary school, in your case in Nový Bor. You didn't actually go to the university. You took advantage of the change in the system, and you went out of the country to travel and learn more experientially. So I always think of you as kind of like a hybrid in terms of your education, as a hybrid between the Czech and the American system, or a system that people here in the States might be familiar with. So tell us a little bit about it, and we will quickly also show your work, if I can make this work. There we go. Oh, and sorry, this is this is the most recent piece of Ivana Sramkova's, a little chapel to Saint Ludmila. Anyway, whoops, and this, I don't know why this is here, but here we go.
So I pretty much started blowing glass in '93 in my father's factory, which is pretty much a year before I entered the secondary glass school in Nový Bor.
And how old were you then?
I started when I was 13 to blowing glass, and I went to school when I was 14. So I was pretty much finished the eighth grade and went to glass school. So
because you were extra intelligent and you skipped many grades.
No. There wasn't a 9th grade back in the day. So
okay, just asking.
So
okay.
And then I pretty much I fell in love with the glass blowing. So since I pretty much the other thing, I didn't have no other choice because my family was in the business. So, but luckily for me, it was something I was absolutely amazed by, and so I pretty much stick with it my whole life. And then when I entered the school, the system was more for the glass blowers. We were more trained as a production glass blowers to pretty much produce glassware and worked in a factory. So there wasn't, they were not really pointing us towards like more like art stuff. And but I must say, like my professor, which was Václav Machach, which was an incredible sculptor, it was for me was one of the most important person as far as like to see a lot of different sculpting. He was using a lot of molds, and so for me it was really interesting. And when I finished the school, I pretty much wanted to keep blowing glass and practice and pretty much find my way of making stuff. So I started traveling pretty much anywhere I can go for flights and couch and just for the different experiences, because I was pretty much sent by the school when I was 15 and 16 to like Holland and France, and I met different people from different schools, and that was also like for me very important to see people to work different way than Czech style glassblowing. So everybody were pretty much sitting down on a bench, and they were not using any molds, which is very traditional in Czech Republic. Everything is pretty much blown in the molds. So I was kind of like discovering the different differences and the possibility of making glass different way than here. So, and then pretty much when I went to United States in 2001, and that was for me like I pretty much accidentally end up being at the gas conference in Corning in 2001, and I saw all these different demos and people and the way they work, and it's absolutely like blew my mind. And I just have to like stay here and practice and work and you know, so it was just like one thing after another, and I pretty much just followed everything I ever dreamed of.
So where did you go to study in the States? Like you said you were in Corning in 2001, and then where did you go?
I mean, I went to Czech Glass School. I was worried like 6 awards like to enter some classes, so I studied with Rich Royal, and I ended up working for William Morris for the last season before he retired. So for me that was incredible experience. You know, originally I worked for Karen William Brink during
I'm just gonna quickly interrupt. I think Dorothy Sachs is on this call. If you're Dorothy, thank you, and Martin says thank you.
Thank you. So like working for Bill was real, because I knew his work for a really long time, and I was really intrigued by the way the team works and how he pretty much approaches and develops totally new, different ways of making glass. So so pretty much ever since I worked for him, I started pretty much making my work and trying to pretty much focusing on the inside sculpting, the bubbles and making. So I went pretty much making more of the human faces and figures, and then except this one.
And this one.
And this one.
And so you essentially made your own education program in a way, right?
Yeah, pretty much, because I mean the stuff I wanted to learn, there wasn't no really places where they were teaching it. So, and it's glassblowing is really special discipline. I mean, you have to do it all the time. So I really around 2005, I really wanted to enter like university for fine arts, and I studied stuff. And then a lot of some people will just say I have to like be there all the time, and I really needed to blow glass pretty much as much as I can to practice and develop my skills and involve with the materials. So it was important for me to stay with the material more than go to school pretty much.
Mm-hmm. That sounds interesting. And so these, I'm just going to quickly go to these 2 horse heads because you mentioned Václav Machach. Are these an homage to his work?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this man, and we spend a lot of time in the pubs and in his studio, and
spending time in the pub is like the Czech expression of love, right?
Exactly, you know. It's
exactly.
Like play chess, which I never learned how to play chess, but I pretend, so you always won. But he was really an incredible person. So
Okay, and so here we are moving through some of Martin's work. Martina, can you just say a little bit about these pieces and when they're approximately from, and then we are going to have to pass.
actually, I made these last year, and I just started to like using these little elements on the heads. So these are like call them starments. It like refers to David Bowie song, and I just like pretty much bringing up more of a more like a different elements to make the piece a little more. I don't say bigger, but to work with the space, because I'm always still limited with how big of a piece I can make in the studio. So I start combining with the different shapes and then creating this like star-like persons. So.
And so I have one last question for you, just to bring it back to the kind of education part. Now that you have your own studio in Prague, and since you had to go, all around the world to make your own program to kind of teach yourself to do what you wanted to do and to become a master at blowing glass and inventing some techniques or perfecting them along the way, is there a way to offer what you learned where you are now in Prague?
I mean, I spent about 20 years of traveling and teaching and learning myself, and I made a plan. So when I'm pretty much turn 40, I'm gonna try to build a studio and pretty much lock myself up.
And that's gonna be when, in 20 years?
Well, that actually happened 2 years ago. So.
Okay.
So the studio was up and running for about 2 years, and I've been absolutely lucky. And like now I'm at the point it's like Ivana Sramkova, we spend some time together. I mean, and I absolutely understand when she told me she never want to leave anywhere. She just want to stay home and work and make beautiful work. And I think that's amazing. And that's what I'm going through. I'm just staying in one place, and I go to work every day and then just practice and just make mistakes and just and pretty much have a home and
A long journey home, right?
yeah. So it's like, but when I turned 40, actually we found this incredible space, and this stuff worked out, and so and I get to work with different artists. I work with Mr. Vladimír Kopecký and František Skála and Petr Nikl. So I'm trying helping people here to do different other things, using the techniques I learned. So it's been really interesting, and even like during this crazy time, past 2 years, I think we made some progress, and so I'm very lucky. So
Great. Well, thank you so much. We are gonna please again stay on, because there'll be questions. There will be a test at the end. We are gonna go to Klara Horackova. Klara, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being so patient. And Klara is currently the assistant head of the glass program at the Academy of Arts, Architecture and Design in Prague, as we said. And she will give us a quick little intro to the program at the school, where it is now. She is the assistant to Ronnie Plessel, who is the head of the program currently, and she will show us a little bit of her students' work and also of her own work. So, and what I asked her to kind of answer in questions was, what is your, if you could describe your and Ronnie's teaching philosophy, what are your hopes for your students, and giving us some examples of the students' work. So, Klara, here we go. But I'm going to stop sharing so you can start.
Mhm. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to make a brief introduction to the glass program we have here in Prague at the moment. This is the building of the school. It's from year 1885, and it was built. The inspiration was in Vienna Academy of Art or Paris Academy of Art. The studio of glass is still very small. We have slightly more students than that Ivana was speaking about, but usually it's like 2, 3, 4 students in 1 year, so maximum is like 26 students.
Sorry,
now
Klara, does this
yes?
photo represent the entire, all the years? At one
It's
point?
one is first till 5th year is no diploma students there.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's the studies are before it was master degree for 6 years. Now it's like 4 years bachelor and 2 years master. So sometimes we have also students from different academies or different studios. This is how the studio looks like inside. Every semester we have a exhibition in the whole academy. Each studio is presenting the works students created during the semester. It's called art semester.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we are opening a new building for workshops. So all the workshops from the old building are moving to the new building, which is like 15 minutes walk from the old building. It's all located in the very center of Old Town here in Prague. This is view from the rooftop terrace. It's all very new. Here it's picture from autumn. Nothing moved there yet, but this semester we are already starting these realizations there in our new workshops. We have new kilns and more equipments that we had in the old building.
And Klara, can you just tell us, so you said that one casting has been finished in the studio so far, is that right?
Yeah, we had like first slumped glass in the new kilns, and we are very happy that everything works as it's supposed to. And we are really looking forward this new semester, because we had last semester it was without workshops. We outsourced everything in factories and small studios or at high schools. And the year before, because of the COVID, everything was closed. So we had online education, which was quite a problem for the students and the studio life, because we could see each other only on computer, which is not the same.
It's been hard. And I'm getting a question, who has paid for this expansion or the renovation of this building?
It's a state money.
State money, okay.
Yes.
And what does it cost to be a student if you are Czech national?
For Czech students, it's for free. We don't have tuition, but students have to pay for the material and for glass factories, which is quite expensive.
Yeah.
We try to find some supports for them, but yeah, it's expensive anyway.
Okay.
I would like to introduce the head of the studio, Ronny Plessel. Here is himself in Victoria and Albert Museum with his installation he had there in I think a year, like 2 years ago, I think it was.
It was before the pandemic, right? So it was like 2018 or 19. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Ronny is graduate from Železný Brod High School. He was also teaching there, and then he studied at Umprum, the jewelry department, and he started as a designer, but now more and more he's working as fine artist. Here is one of his cast glass objects, He makes in cooperation with Boletti glass studio, where Jiří Šín developed very interesting new way how to cast glass without a reservoir, which allows very complicated shapes. And yeah, and it's quite fast also to anneal it, but it's a secret technology still. Ronny is preparing now.
We don't want to divulge
Sorry?
any secrets. We don't want to divulge any secrets, or maybe we do. But anyway, okay. And this is another piece of Ronnie's.
Yes, Ronny is preparing an exhibition for Venice Biennale. She will start it in April. So some of his objects
Great.
that he's preparing for Venice.
And are there some pictures of your work too?
Mm-hmm. I studied at the Kaminsky-Shinov Glass School and then at the Academy of, at Umbrum with Professor Vladimír Kopecký. And this was my diploma work. It was like the kind of chamber for meditation. It's a mirror cube with mirrors also on the inside. You can enter it, and by one side, which is possible to close, and it's like place to hide away from the world. This is another installation with mirrors, which is called Mirror. This was installed at the Prague Castle, and basically this is a billboard which I turned into a kinetic object. It somehow reflects on visual smoke in the city, and somehow it's working with this thought of returning the people's mind back into the presence. Another installation I made with mirrors and audio, with video and with sound, which I designed myself as well, is this Ghost in the Machine. It was construction with motors, which each of the machine was, each of the wheel was manipulated by computer, and it was with projection of from various revolutions, and it was like a kind of monster machine of referring like how the crowd can be both constructive and destructive. Another way I'm working with glass is like small object kiln formed. I try to find new ways how to work with glass in kiln. So I try to develop my own techniques.
So this is one of the examples of, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, another piece, Dogma. It's a cast glass with like small spirit levels, but they're in epoxy. It's somehow like a fake framing of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I would like to show some works of the students. This is work of Vendulka Prchalova. She is a doctorate student, and she experiments with 3D printing and casting. She was successful with this work at, for example, in Venice Glass Week. She won an award, and she will go to Pelchak, I think,
And I should say doctorand student is a
PhD.
graduate PhD student, yeah, candidate.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Next. Yeah.
Tomáš Kučera, it's cast glass and blown glass. It's kind of like space for some precious object. It was on tema ritual. Maria Tadenacová works very often with video projection combined with traditional glass techniques. Sabina Falcmanová, this was her work, fireplace with neons and wooden construction. Brina Steblovník, she was. We have this visual arts program, which is like a master program in English. So it's for 2 years, and people get the master degree at the studio, which is they select. So Brina Steblovník was our student from Slovenia. It's cast glass.
And are these all current students, or these are their graduate projects and they're no longer in the program, or are they still part of the program?
Some of them are, for example, Brina, she graduated last year.
Okay.
And the rest of the students are still studying.
Okay. And would you say that many of your students, do you know what happens to the students after they graduate? Like, does the program keep in touch with them? Have they gone into design or away from making work into something completely different?
We are very happy that most of our students continue working in the field. Right. Mostly it's design or art design, but they start to exhibit during the studies, and they build their own studios, and I'm very happy that they are successful.
Yeah. Let's maybe go through the students so we can get to the Q&A. I'm getting more questions here, and I know people want to ask themselves, so yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. This was interesting project of another visual arts student from South Korea, and it was based on a novel by Jan Amos Komenský, Labyrinth of the World and the Paradise of the Heart.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and now it's just like what we are working on at the moment.
The coming attractions.
We are preparing exhibition in Belgium, which will start in beginning of April.
Yeah.
It will be together with.
If to everybody out there, if you're traveling to Europe, if you want to stop in Belgium, April to October, there will be an exhibition of the students from the department there at Lommel, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. As well as.
This exhibition I already spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
And myself, I'm preparing exhibition in Galerie Kuzebauch
in Prague.
September.
Yeah, and we should say Galerie Kuzebauch in Prague. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so I'm just to sum this up, I want to thank everyone who spoke, Doug, Charlotte, Ivana, Martin, and Klara, just to say that this is, obviously the time doesn't allow for like a deep exploration of this subject, but the subject is fertile and there's a lot to say about it. And it was we tried to focus mostly on the education and how the Czech situation in the in the early 20th century and then post-World War II. And with the drastic changes of systems of government in that area, kind of changed and affected the use of and work with glass in that geopolitical space of the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia and then the Czech Republic. So if we will open this to questions now. Thank you everybody for being patient, and we will start taking questions. I am wondering, Howard, do you want to moderate the questions or do you want me to?
I will go ahead and moderate.
Sorry. Okay.
That's okay. So it looks like we had one person that was interested in hearing about more of the monumental glass castings that Czech Glass is known for. So maybe if you can expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe Ivana would be the best person to kind of answer that, and Doug and I can talk about that a little bit as well.
Okay.
That again is a big subject, so we're just going to touch on it. But Ivana, a little bit about the monumental casting.
I don't know. The question is where it is possible to cast.
I think let's see what exactly.
I was just interested in learning more about it because I've been fascinated with it for years, and it's one of the only places in the world you can go to do it. And so I'm just curious about the current state of it.
To cast monument glass sculptures, it's the best to use the workshop because they know it. They know, and you need few strong men, because if you have 200 or 300 kilos, you can't do it yourself. So I can recommend you to ask some workshop and bring model or make model here and be there and watch what they are doing. Maybe this, it's the
Audrey,
same in. Yeah.
If sorry, I'm just going to say to Audrey, if you email us, we will put you in touch maybe with Ivana or somebody, and then we can put you in touch with somebody there. If you're interested in practical,
thank you. That would be great.
Practical knowledge. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's important to give a lot of credit where it's due. And in this case, that would be to Mrs. Brechtova for establishing some of these studios that still exist today.
Yes.
And for establishing ones that maybe inspired others to start. But it was also, and this is something that maybe we didn't get to quite touch on, but it was part of the way that the artists were able to actually use the socialist and communist system to kind of help them make the work. And it was done, I will repeat this, I've said this many times before, but I'm going to repeat it again. It was done at the expense of their ego very often. The Lebenskis did not own their work for the first, I don't even know off the top of my head, I don't want to be too inaccurate, but I would say that for the first 30 years of their life, or of their career together, they did not own their work. The state owned their work. But the fact that they were able to make it, that they found a way to make the system underwrite, essentially the making of it, was more important to them than the ownership of it. So I'm just putting that out there for people to understand. And as Charlotte was talking about it, the fact that people were able to kind of make use of these technologies and try to get a message out as much as it was suppressed at times, the works had to speak for itself in order, because the rhetoric around it did not accurately describe it. Right, Charlotte? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it was kind of beating the system, basically.
Yeah.
And having the technology and being able to do it in a way which was basically subversive in itself. And it was I think the results are amazing, and people were doing wonderful things in spite of the very difficult situation.
Thank you, Audrey, for that question. So that's basically the long and short of it. But there are still some amazing facilities in the Czech Republic. There are facilities in the works, I hear, in the United States. So hopefully there'll be more opportunities soon.
Yep.
Aubrey also had a question regarding PhD programs in Europe, and if you have any information there.
Yeah, because one of you mentioned that there was a PhD student, I think, in Czechia, and so I was immediately very interested to find out.
That's a Klara question.
Unfortunately, we have PhD studies only in Czech language at the moment. I think they are thinking about make it in English as well, but it's not yet.
And so the 2-year program that you mentioned in English, that's an undergraduate program?
It's a master degree.
It's a master's degree. Okay. So Audrey, there's a master's available, but not a PhD in English yet.
Not in Czech Republic.
Not in the Czech Republic. That's what I meant. Not in the Czech Republic. Okay. Anybody else?
I was just curious about Martin's studio. Are you doing any teaching there, or is it really just for you and to create your own work?
We had the original plan was that we're gonna do like 1 or 2 classes a year, but we pretty much finished the studio right before the COVID starts. So everything pretty much changed, and which was like to do class, it's takes a lot of planning and everything, and then so we pretty much just we might do something maybe next year, because it looks like everything's gonna go back to normal, as they always say, but we'll see. So but I'm going to Pilchak this year in June for a class to teach. It's the only place I go. But I've been pretty much teaching for past 15 years, so I'm like super happy. I'm just pretty much locked up in my little hole here and just making stuff every day. So I've been really enjoying it, and again, I'm getting more and more excited to go back in and start doing some classes. But in the shop, I think it's going to be maybe next year in the winter.
Howard, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
I'm sure. I was just wondering, since people are so interested in education and just amazing work that's been made in the Czech lands for centuries and centuries, are there any short-term workshops that are being taught in Prague, or is it more likely for people to find them at places like Pilchak and Corning and Australia, for example?
Yeah, so that I think is to everybody. Klara, Martina, Ivana, are there any short-term workshops in the Czech Republic being offered right now?
No. As far as I know, it's. I mean, they had a little program in František studio factory. I mean, I'm talking like glass blowing.
And this is before COVID, right?
This is before COVID, but there's no really like glass blowing facility where you actually do like short-term glass blowing classes. So.
Okay.
Umprum is going to try workshops for like in Czech language this semester or next year, and then if it works well, we will start also some workshops in English, hopefully. But it's not in hot class. It's with kilns and cold working. We don't have.
It's in cold working. And what was the first one? I just didn't hear.
Working with kilns, casting,
Casting.
Film casting. Okay.
Hi, I just want to thank Doug and Katya for bringing this to the forefront, and maybe Howard as well. Hal and I have been fortunate visiting the Czech Republic many times and have a special place in our hearts for the people there and the artists. Getting to know the professor and Yaroslava, who made our lives so rich. And I'm just happy to see the enthusiasm and energy that continues in the glass world in the Czech Republic. It is something we can never thank you enough for.
And I would encourage anyone who's interested.
I just want to say thank you, Myra and Hal. Thank you.
10 weeks in the Czech Republic and visiting the
You want to open the exhibition?
Sorry, guys.
We had several questions specifically about one of the objects that's sitting behind us, the red one there, which is a Lebenski head with square eye.
We also have some Ivana Sramkova.
Yes, and we have a flock of Ivana's birds closer to
I
us.
mean, maybe it's more important that you see those than me.
So, but what I wanted to mention apropos of the red sculpture is that beginning on April 7th and running through the middle of May, we are going to have our first Lebenski Brikova sculpture exhibition in many years. And we will have nearly 20 pieces. We will have drawings from the professor's teachings. And it's going to be, for us, a very exciting revisiting of a time that was wonderful and a learning experience for us. I would mention, apropos of the educational part, every time we had an exhibition with the Lebenskis, it was like an education. Even though the language barrier existed, we learned things about the use of space and how objects within space can alter your perception of the architecture. When they would come and they would travel with architect
Masak, Mr.
Masak, who was also
Yaroslav
the,
Masak.
right, he was also the architect for Prague Castle, you know, so
At
things
one
were taken very seriously, done with great grace and creativity, but truly inspired people. And that's what's going on today, again, through the work of people like Klara and Ronnie and other people.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that that's really one of the hallmarks of the Czech world, because it's the virtue of its smallness in a way, is that there's a interconnectedness, I think, of people and disciplines that was both promoted intentionally, as Charlotte explained, you know, from the very beginning, from the very founding of the country, but also that happens because you are in this place, you know, the thing that Ivana said about how everybody, and the photo that Klara showed of the entire 6 years of the school being all together in the same studio drawing, you know, and then, you know, the kind of love that Martin has for, you know, coming back to the country with the 20 years of history and knowledge that he has kind of learned and everything that he has absorbed, to bring that back there. And again, be in that space where he can be connected to so many other people. And you may not be familiar, but, you know, for example, one of the names he named for somebody he's working with right now, František Skala, is somebody who is an artist of maybe older than Ivana is, probably like of that generation. And you know, just again, everything is connected. And I think that connection, that sort of the sense of community and how that community affects one another and influences one another is a really wonderful thing to watch and to see, and how it reflects in the work of all these people, the people who spoke here today and those who preceded them, who were their teachers. I mean, for example, we didn't show and didn't really talk about Mr. Kopecky, the Klara's teacher, but he is another amazing personality, a really strong teacher, and, you know, and others.
And the thread between education and the government continues. It was there in the First Republic. It was there during the communist years, and it's there today. And anybody who's studied glass in the United States knows what it costs to go to a school like RISD or something else. The fact that these schools are supported and updated and working with cutting edge technology, and that the education, not just in the glass arts, but across the spectrum, if you're a Czech citizen, you're entitled to a free college if you qualify. And it has led to a very rich pool of talent in the arts in general, in literature, and across. It's a small country, but it's produced a great many very significant people and significant things.
I think that's a really good point. You know, a lot of people that are glass lovers, not necessarily glass creators, are perhaps not always familiar with the cost of creating this particular medium compared to other mediums. And it's often prohibitive for people to even, you know, dip their toe in. So to have that kind of opportunity and support, I think, is certainly a reason why both not only the quality of artists from that area, but also, as we've talked about, the size of the castings that they can produce because the infrastructure was there without them having to personally invest their own funds in that.
You know, as an interesting footnote with the casting facilities, the massive ones, after the revolution, when things were privatized again, the people who operated these had no idea what it cost to operate them because everything had been underwritten and subsidized by the state. And when they finally learned the cost of doing it, it was a very shocking sense of reality.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, well, I'm just going to say that being mindful of time, it is about 9:30 in the evening in the Czech Republic. So I saw Martin taking a very inviting sip of wine there. So I'm just going to say we should raise our glasses. I only have a cup of tea here, but I'm going to raise my glass to everyone over there.
thank you to
Well,
all.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Doug and Katya, and thank you to all the panelists. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now, but if anyone wants to stay on and just chat, you're welcome to do so.
Thank
Thank
you.
you